Welcome to the 25 Keys to Love, where you will learn to transform negative behavior in your relationships and create enriching emotional life. So this is what happens when the strongest contact of the moon, which represents your emotional life and need for security, is from Pluto. So first of all, imagine that your partner has this aspect. How do they act? What has attracted you to them? Well, first of all, they're extremely deep. They're very emotionally intense, kind of controlling. They create a very intense atmosphere. Um, Often there's a kind of, they're really into their psychological issues. They're a little troubled, and this absorption in this emotional intensity can kind of suck your own emotional energy, so you can feel kind of emptied out. They can be a little fearful and anxious. They create this sort of controlling and intense atmosphere, which you have to kind of navigate. And the reason they're like this is that in their upbringing, there was something that undermined the security at home. It can be that the mother was very controlling. The mother may even have been a little disturbed. And this person experienced that emotionally they were amputated, or they kind of put on ice as a way of controlling them. So that's what they kind of learned. So you'll experience this as like the atmosphere changing, suddenly getting really cold. You feel a kind of hostage to the emotional vibes. And when you start discussing things, like you'd like to do it logically, but there's this kind of toxic emotions that come up. And what you have to do is basically give pushback, because these people actually respect and need you to stop them really going to extremes. So don't get drawn into their paranoid scenarios. You have to understand that their anxiety lies at the root of this. And maybe you can reassure them to a certain extent about that everything's okay. But Moon-Pluto in a partner's horoscope, it gives this intense and but kind of often psychologically enriching environment, where there's always a kind of emotional transformation taking place. So what happens if you've got this aspect between the moon and Pluto? How do you act? Well, basically, you're scanning the environment for any kind of threat to your security, and you've got this need to control the environment. And when you find that something's a little threatening, you kind of have this intense reaction. You kind of overreact, really, maybe even totally lose it, and there's a kind of result that there's this kind of empty feeling, sort of you feel emptied at the end of it. So you tend to make innocent scenarios much more complicated than they need to be. And when there's a kind of crisis, as you tend to evoke, you're quite willing to sort of self-immolate, completely, go under yourself in a way to assert some kind of control. And the reason for this basically is normally connected with the mother, where it was really difficult to make a kind of normal bond. It may have been very intense, it may have been very cold. Often there's a kind of a stronger bond to the grandmother, for example. So the mother's love is kind of conditional, that you go along with their kind of way of seeing the world. Or there may also just have been kind of a sort of element of crisis, or an atmosphere of crisis in the whole environment, which threatened your feeling of security. So you feel like your connection to your roots was broken off, maybe because you moved a lot, or so there's a sort of no kind of sense of security in the roots. There's some kind of broken family bonds. Somebody's amputated somebody else somewhere. So what you need to do when you have this aspect, you need to go to the roots of anxiety. Therapy is really helps, and maybe you'll even develop an interest in therapy. You can maybe become a good therapist yourself as you go deeper and deeper into the hidden causes of emotional reactions. So don't get drawn in to these interactions where you feel anxiety. If you feel anxiety coming into your discussions, that's the time to kind of stop and find out where that's coming from. And above all, don't threaten to amputate or cut the bond, or don't actually cut the bond to create this kind of anxiety in your partner. But when you're conscious of this kind of behavior, and this aspect brings a lot of consciousness, so when you understand the psychological roots behind it, it can lead to a powerful and enriching emotional relationship.